Hi everyone on YouTube. This is Nayan making another one of my live Come Alive YouTube stream. So yes, Sunday is over, and yes, I still want to give praise to God because I think everything happens in life uh, because there's a lesson, right? So I am drinking this probiotic yogurt, right? And this is from Glen Oaks, or you could say this kefir, right? So essentially, what probiotic does is it removes the bad bacteria in your gut and replaces it with good ones, right? So in that process, expect that you will have a bowel movement. So this is, you know, it wouldn't be advisable for you to try to drink the whole entire thing. As I did one time, my sister gave me one, I believe from Trader Joe's, and she was like, you want the rest of it. And I didn't know it was probiotic. And so I drank the whole entire, and it was a big one like this. It had a major, bowel movement in Chipotle. And, apparently my stomach had a lot of stuff, right, that needed to be cleaned out. Um, so, yes, I was in the restroom for quite some time, making a lot of noise and just, you know, so this isn't just yogurt or a drink. It is kind of like medicine in that it cleans out your stomach. Um, why I got it? Um, I actually got it in relationship to besitos and the babies. So recently, um, she's been having bouts of diarrhea. And, um, if you were to do a little bit of detective work, I did give her a lot of delectables. Those little Slurpee kitty soups. She loves them. And, after reading some Google articles, they basically said that if your kitty's stomach is upset and they have diarrheas, no treats, right? And delectable, for the most part, it is a form of treat, just in a soup form. And it comes in different types of forms. It's more like a thick broth, kind of like tomato soup. And then they have a more clear one. But, I was joking around, and, I was saying besitos. I would say she gets one delectable. That means one Slurpee. Besitos thinks it's the whole entire box, one box, because sometimes I do buy her a box of um, like 10 or 12. So, how people say, hey, if you buy dog foods in larger quantity, right, you save money. But let me just stop there. And with just witnessing her have bowels of diarrhea, it wasn't fun for me, and I know it wasn't fun for her. And that was how my last dog died. So it's not a matter of, oh, buy more, you save money. No, you're saving the life of your pets, right? And, the vets clearly suggested, of course, right? Um, Other than diarrhea, they have other symptoms and it's getting severe. Definitely take them to the hospital, you know, and it might be an emergency, right? And then two, they recommend health insurance, getting your pet shots, right? Just like we have vaccines to protect us from the flu and immunization, they need it too. And what else? Get immunization, and then they said if it's like diarrhea, and you don't want to always run to the emergency room when it's not an emergency and nobody has money to take their pets in all the time. Get very expensive. um, there's a lot of over the counter anti-diarrhea. So um, they suggest to squirt it like directly into the mouth of your pet. um, but you know what, if your pet is gonna throw a fuss, you know um, like recently Basita wasn't feeling well. Personally, I wouldn't want to grab her, try to squirt it in her mouth because she had a lot of like, diarrhea in her buttocks area. No matter how much I try to wipe it down and give her showers, and I gave her a shower today, and I prayed over her, and I laid hands on her, and you could just tell she wasn't feeling good. That's not the time for me to be grabbing her and forcing anti-diarrhea medication down her mouth. So, there's many methods to suffice that. So you could like squirt some of that in the water, right? Because they do suggest um, for dogs who have diarrhea, right, to have a lot of hydration. So you could squirt some of that anti-diarrhea stuff in their water. They don't get them in the system. Um, and they just suggested, a lot of people have been making exception to human rules. For dogs and cats, they say that rice and chicken and like just a little bit of soup really seems to settle their stomach. Um, I tried that today, and it didn't really work. So you know, I I basically everything I learned, I try to apply it, and I went to Vaughn's, and some stuff stood out, right? So there was a bunch of cat food, and about like two of them had like veterinarian recommended, and I thought to myself, that's good, right? Because there's a lot of foods that are recalled. There's a lot of food that are expired. There's some of the warnings, or there's just a lot of foods that, yeah, you're saving money, but it's really affecting the health of your pets. And I saw on Facebook, as I said on my previous video, and I'll delete the one I made earlier because I do not want other people to interfere with my live stream. Um, there was on Facebook where people were posting about a pet food line. It wasn't recalled, but it was called Blue something. If you guys know the name of it, Q&A, you can write it. But every single pet that ate the food was getting very sick, throwing up blood, and a lot of testimonials. Their pet was dead the next day. And all I thought when I saw that on Facebook is like, why are you posting all over Facebook? Because Facebook isn't going to do anything about it. A lot of times Facebook tells people to report it to them. They're not going to do anything. So, I saw that and I said, what they should do is they should do a class act. There's enough people here, photos, evidence. Sue this company, right? So those are some of the things I learned today. So I went to Vaughn's, and I think people get the impression Vaughn's, right? They have more selective food, like the signature line. So it's going to be a little bit more, and I guess it depends on what. So I saw the pet food, and what I like about Vaughn's is you might pay more, but they have better selections. So 2 stood out, right? Hey, locos. You want me to spray you? I'll spray you. Brianka. I shouldn't have let him in the garage. Shouldn't have let him in the garage, because if something falls on them, they're going to get hurt. Locos. I'm going to have to ask you locos to come inside. And I don't even know where Astra is. Loco. 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 Come inside, loco. And I don't even know where Astra is. Where's Astra? Come inside. Come inside. Astra? I'm going to assume he's in here. Astra? Baby? Yep. All of them are in, except Astra. I don't know where he is. But I know he's not mischievous like the other 3. And I closed the garage door, didn't lock it. So if he's out there and I hear him scratching, I'll let him in. But I know Astra. Astra? Astra? Is that you? Baby? Come on, Astra. Astra. Come. Astra. Come on, baby. Brianka. Loco. Get inside. Astra. I'm going to have to ask you, monkey, to go inside. Astra. Monkey. Go, monkey. Monkeys. No more in the garage. So my bad. Castro was the last one out in the garage. But you know what? Cats have 9 lives for a reason, right? I'm just worried something falls on them, right? But more so, I want to teach them. When I tell them to come, they need to listen, right? Yeah. They're my babies. I want to teach them if they love me, they need to listen, right? Mhm. For the most part, they're very good. They're very good kitties. I'll let you down, okay? So what I was saying, 2 foods, right? Because I was getting desperate. It wasn't fun, the Cetos, wiping up the Cetos, diarrhea every minute. I'm pretty sure she wasn't having fun. So I was desperate, and I went to Vaughn's and thinking, food is going to be very expensive. And I saw 2 that stuck out, veterinarian recommended. And, a lot of time people are skeptical, right? But I can tell you, there was 2 that was veterinarian recommended, a little pricey. Um, Pooping good, Astra? Good boy. I'm basically studying their poop and the way they poop, because you can tell a lot about somebody's health studying their poop. So yes, Besito is still having diarrhea, but it's not that as bad. Um, Usually, if your pets have a bowel movement, and uh, if they're there's like a really bad odor to it, more than normal. Um, I would start to think more in terms of like stomach, like parasites and stuff like that. Um, because you could tell, so that's some of the things I'm going to prepare next month to take her to see the vet, make sure they give her all her shots, and, deworming, right? Anti diarrhea before the situation gets exasperated. But the Google article said, even if you did all of the above, your money is wasted, right? If you don't put them on a good diet, because essentially, remove the tea, right? If you don't cross your T in dieting, you can die. My dog did, and there's a lesson to be learned in all of this. So I saw 2 bags at Vaughn's. I was getting desperate. Donati's good. He's not sick, so that's promising. And he's the baby. And for the most part, the litter box is not, right? It's splattered with diarrhea, so that's good. That's good. So, finish my story. Give credits to vets, right? If they recommend a pet food, it's probably because it's better for your pets. So out of the many Bonds, Bonds puts the best stuff. There was like 2. They're around, 10, 15, right? For like not the big bag, right? But if you're on a limited budget, which that's understandable with what's going on, and right, you have 4 kitties and another one that loves to eat, and then a fat one in the backyard. You can go like generic, which is like keep away from brand names and just go on your budget. There are other foods for your kitty that is probiotic. Okay, so the same concept as this, but just in a dry kibble form. Ciro, no, you don't scratch my chair, loco. You stay down and sleep until your diarrhea goes away in that case. So it's the same concept as this, where it's going to clean out the bad bacteria, replace it with good ones. So it just proves my point that we need all these bacterias and microbials and viruses and stuff, right? I'm going to keep on the lights because I can be able to observe the cetos more. So what you want to look in cat food is basically the things that people keep on bringing up on Google, especially by vets, right? So a lot of it is rice, because rice seems to settle the stomach. Chicken. Some did bring up like duck is good. So there are exceptions to the rules as far as feeding them human food and also wet. You could give them broth, chicken broth, right? So they get the taste of chicken, but they're not actually eating whole chicken. But what you really want to look for is the brand that I got. It essentially is the same thing as the veterinarian one, right? You have a picture that is probiotic, good for your stomach, fiber, right? That makes the poop kind of solidify, and just make sure that it's 100% nutrition and everything they put in there. Like some of these bags that is put in there for a purpose, right? Not just for you to save money, but to actually save your pet's life, right? So I bought the alternative, right? Because it basically looks the same as the one that's vet recommended. And I brought it home, and immediately I opened it up and I mixed it I have some baby formulas, kitty kibbles, um, and I got just regular food. Now, this is the thing with my last dog that died. Okay, I learned the hard way that if you don't put yourself on a diet or your pets, they're not going to die right away. Over time, though, over time, okay, it does its damage, right? So you need to be aware of it and invest your wealth into your health, not the other way around. It's not the other way around. No matter how wealthy somebody is, you can't buy health. You can't buy happiness. And essentially, that's my two assignments for mosquitoes and her babies and Fat Boy. I just want them to be healthy and happy. And, it really doesn't take a lot for that to happen. So I got him the kitty food, and I made sure it's not big. I added it to the rest of the kitty formulas for the baby, and the rest was Lucida's food. Why? Because the Google article said you want to transition, right? So I want to keep her food similar to what she has going, but add in the probiotic for her, right? So you will, right? They'll fart and they'll belch, and they will have bowel movements because that's what probiotic does. So it's kind of right, kind of like undoing the pipes in your sink. And so far, it's promising. It's working. Another thing is, right, I was discussing with some shoppers, no, do jump on here. No, do not jump on here. I can give you more yogurt. You want more yogurt? Ay, don't grab my feet. Tito, you can have more yogurt. All right. More yogurt, or you want to go outside? No? You want to have more yogurt, or you want to go outside? Okay, go outside. Go outside. Go run around. Make it feel better. No, not you. No, not you. Tito, go. Sorry, folks. Even though the situation is more promising, in earlier. I have to make sure. And I'm using this. This is also from Bonds. It is Microban. 24 hours kills um, bacteria, right? Alrighty, so this is 24 hours of protection from bacterial growth, even on multiple touches. Citrus, 24 hours, Bonds, right? But be careful, because that was one of the things the Google article brought up, that your cat can have diarrhea from food, chemicals, anything. Be careful. It's kind of like, you have a baby around and you have to baby proof everything. Another thing they brought up is just, sometimes they play hairball strings, swallow things they shouldn't be. I know when Visita was a baby, literally, I know God's watching over her, because I don't know how she did it, but she swallowed one of my hair rubber bands, one of these babies, half. So it was like a long string. I don't know how she got it down her throat. It's in her stomach. Usually when that happens, right, the doctor has to assist in helping them poop it out, or they have to be cut open. So I don't know how she got this. See what I mean? Gotta be careful. And then one day I noticed she was like, oh, and then I was like, what's wrong? There's a reason why cats have 9 lives, because they put themselves in a lot of jeopardy. Many times Besito has put herself in predicaments, and if I wasn't there, she would be like, when she was a little baby, there was like a string underneath the sofa. It kind of wrapped around her neck. Yeah. And she was like, and I was like, what's going on? I woke up. There was just a string from the sofa around her neck. And the more she moved, right? And I woke up and, immediately my motherly instinct kicked in and I cut it. So another time she did the same thing. I woke up and she's like, So I was like, what now? Right? She proceeded to vomit, and it was like, it was as something was helping her throw it up. And I saw a big hair rubber band come out of her throat. As how she swallowed it, I have no idea, but I'm so glad she threw it up. Truly, we need to be reminded that God's watching over us. Even just the fact when we sleep and we're not conscious of what's going on, something's watching over you. Something is preventing bad things from happening to you. Something is, right? Like in your life and death, all of a sudden something's there. God, praise God. So they're feeling better. Yeah, it takes time. I introduced the food to them. I also put in, what do you call it? Squirt some dental, to keep their breath and their teeth clean. I figured that would buy me time, right, to get the food, and then get some anti-diarrhea drops from Petco. Not a lot, $7. You add it to your water. But if you really want to just, you need it and you don't have the budget, I got Vasitas Activia yogurt, right? Which is the same thing. And it's funny because I said I would come back and tell you guys how my paper about the movie Halloween and Jamie Lee Curtis, right? She is a spokesperson for Activia yogurt. And for the most part, her name is behind that. She's credible. And not to mention, during the time, she had a really great body. She represents a healthy actress, right? And somebody that has credibility. She says, like, hey, try Activia because it works. Most likely you're going to believe her because she's not the actress or actor that you wouldn't. I tried it and I could tell you it works. Because, sometimes your stomach is just like, it just feels so horrible, and I tried it and I had my doubts, and like within minutes, my stomach was settled. Your stomach's very sensitive. So, with food allergies and chemical allergies and just change in routine, them eating things they shouldn't be eating, it could be anything. So I would advise everybody, keep a mental log of probable cause and effect. But in the meantime, don't freak out. Don't freak out. Have faith. The situation's better. Because the litter box. Oh, I was going to say, if I don't know, before I read my paper, the litter box, okay, is literally makes a difference. It's either their sandbox, right? Or it could be a load of shit. So yes, be very picky with their litter box. I always use things with baking soda and a good brand name because baking soda is very comforting, right, to their skin in their private areas. Or if I don't have that, then I just buy baking soda and I add it in there. Plus, it helps with the odor and everything else. I am very picky now because I really want to see or improve. Before, just little stuff we overlook, and now that I am a mother, Kitty, for 4, now I'm starting to pick up on these things. Like kitty litter box smells, right? And I have Glade and I spray it, right? Well, guess what? That might be a source of irritant for them. So I'm very picky. I stop. Whatever I learn on Google that might be a threat to them, I take note of it and I'm starting to reduce it and stop it. No more junk food. No more, right? Chemical agents, that's in question. No more right? Them getting to do whatever they want, they're not going to. I really believe if you love your fur babies or your children, um, you're not going to let them do whatever. It's parents who don't care about their kids. They just let their kids run around and do whatever. And my kitties are not going to do that, right? Because, right, they do whatever, and then whatever happens to them, and all these wrong things. But with your body healing, your body has a great way of healing, but it takes time. And in the meantime, like I said, don't freak out over it. Just continue to have faith. I really believe in prayer, putting hands on, just keeping your hopes up. It doesn't help for you to worry, which is, what I was doing, because it happened to my last dog. She passed away, and now it's happening again. But maybe there's a lesson there, so I could share it with you guys. But all in all, I'm reminded, don't take anything for granted. Anything that's good in your life, give it to God. Acknowledge, God did that. So yes, right now, 2 are asleep over there, 2 are asleep over here. I'm going to turn off the lights. Because as you guys know, right, with a steady asleep, one of the ways to regulate sleep is to get artificial light that pretty much regulates your circadian, right? So what I mean by that is if you're suffering from jet lag and you have to sleep like when the sun's out, right? You can get these lights or vice versa, where it's nighttime and the light will mimic that there's sunlight out. And that's how it keeps your circadian or your balance. So right now, as you can see, they're asleep. And so I only have my LED. There's 2 over here, Aster and Cupids, and Donati and Priyanka. That's a good sign. And that's what I suggest you guys do every day. Make a mental note of good things, right? The hell with all the other bad stuff. The hell with all of it. Dump it. So they're sleeping. That's a good sign. That means they're not in stress or they're suffering or their stomach's hurting. And I totally praise God for that. Because earlier, that was what I was praying. I was like, I'm kind of at loss what to do. So this works, and it works for me too. But recently, my stomach was upset for a different reason. They had me back on for my diabetic medication from urgent care. So it was another form of metformin. But, with it breaking down sugar, it does break down your, So that was why my stomach was upset. It wasn't because I had any infections or anything like that. But no matter how strong or smart you are, how spiritual, we all need healing, right? Let's pray together for healing from God. We all need it. And I was going to say the body of Christ, right? Just as your body functions as a whole, we need each other as a whole. And, I know We all know there are people out there that doesn't believe in that, right? They could be family. I know relatives that are like that. They're your relatives, but they don't really relate to you, right? Dysfunctional family, etc. Or, I was talking about social cultural, right? You might be outcasted, right, by society, which pretty much I am because I am Americanized. And for the most part, a lot of Vietnamese people, they don't like that, you know. But how I see it, you know what? They don't have to be here in the United States, right? That's how I see it. Or around me, they'll do me a favor. So I'm going to read to you my paper in the last 15 minutes. And I could tell you, I was pressed of time, even though I started early. A lot of my time was spent running around, taking care of stuff for them. No excuse though, right? So, I did get the table of content in, but my pages were off, right? And then the the running header, and then how you change the page number thereafter. I got that wrong. And that's one reason why your professor, when you're upper division, they don't want you using Google anymore, because you could be there, right? You're running out of time, and Google is just playing games with you like that. Whereas, Microsoft is like, boom, right? It's more smarter about it and stationary. And what else did I get wrong? Just little grammatical stuff, which I feel is a glitch of the system. Because when I looked at my Google Docs, everything was correct. But then when I turned it in, I noticed like the double space was more than double. And just like, when I reviewed it, I know me. I wouldn't let it run more than double space, right? But it's just a glitch of the system. That's why it's good for you to give yourself like a little bit of a head start, so that, if you have some glitch and stuff like that, you can always turn it in again, right? Think of it in terms of pi, right? Not the pi, like, right, 3.14, but the time. You got 4 quadrants. As they suggest in like a job interview, don't show up too early because you look desperate, and don't leave too soon. Okay, because it kind of shows you don't care. So the same thing with your tests. Kind of give yourself some cushion. So if you do have any glitches, you'll be able to, right, avoid all of that. But all in all, I got the point of what the professor was trying to get me to do. And I actually did APA for the first time and saw a lot of improvement in my writing, but more so my understanding of psychology. So I will read you my paper. Other than, getting the page header wrong and my table of contents. It was a little off, just a little grammatical, right? When I turned it in, instead of double space, it went three. I have no idea how. So here we go. And with Halloween coming up, I believe on the 15th, they have Halloween Kills. So you're going to like hearing of my paper. It will shed you some light about the movie. So let me pull it up on my Google Docs where I try to go in and make it as perfect as possible. So when I do start English honors, at least I have something to work with. And I will share with you guys everything they instruct me. Alrighty, so here we go. So I'm reading it off my phone, okay? It says mental disorders portrayed in Halloween compared to the textbook. And I just put textbook, right? So grammatically, I should write out to the textbook because there's still room for that. And then my name and the school. And since my name is long, right, I chose to write Santa Ana College out. So a lot of it is balancing your paper. Then the table of contents, which is something the professor forgot to cover. I took the initiative to include. So where do you take the table of content? Professor. So he wanted a introductory paragraph, right? Or instead of writing that on your table of content, your abstract, then the historical context, the cultural context, the etiology. And if you don't know what these words mean, then look it up. You need to know what these words mean, so you know how you word your paper, right? Etiology is the cause of any illness, symptoms, the difference between prognosis and diagnosis. The prognosis is how the disorder or disease is going to run its course, right? Not necessarily the best light, just how it's generally going to run its course. Stay the same, can get worse or improve. Diagnosis, though, is the study of where it came from, whereas prognosis is where it might be heading. Treatments, conclusion, and reference, right? And the table of contents, pretty easy. You're going to bold, right, what your professor prompts, and then the page, right, on the right. And then everything in between is ... So a lot of it is, a lot of it is just visual. Like presenting a postcard, like some of my Bible stuff that I presented earlier. So at 54 minutes, let me read you the paper. And this should make your Halloween interesting, right? So this is my first APA, and I would say it's been an improvement. And I hit the 1,500 mark to get an A. But then, like I said, I admitted, and that's another thing with being an A student, to what I did wrong. Um, my in-text citation, the pager off because I ran out of time. The header was off because I was using Google Docs, so it was playing along with me. And there was a little bit of glitch in turning it in. But at least I turned it in at the right place because he locked up the assignment. And I wanted to clarify that tonight he wanted it turned in, and he said it still is run over into November 4th, right? And that's something you have to talk with him because as far as tonight, he locked it. And Canvas yanks the assignment. So if you're late, you know, after midnight, too bad. You're going to have to talk with him. Only he can make an exception. Which is important to have good, reliable study equipment. For AT&T, if you're low income, they have $10 a month internet, right, to help you out. Call them and they'll tell you what it is. Then you'll be able to enjoy watching your YouTube cable, right? So here's my paper. It says, my paper is to compare the way mental disorders are portrayed in films supported by social media, because he wanted us to choose one or the other. But I wanted to be comprehensive, cover everything. The comparison of what is fact-based descriptions in our textbook resources and secondary citation. So a lot of it is I'm re-emphasizing that I'm doing what he prompts, right? And paying attention to the details. That's how you don't get a D on your paper. The producer of Halloween and the creation of Michael Myers. I approach this systemically as prompted, and what is the research model of analyzing mental disorder through abnormal psychology and Cengage. My hope is to look more at the facts, although it might ruin my fears on Halloween and that of Michael Myers. And you notice how very clear I sound. I'm not trying to be clever or smart ass, because on the contrary, that's not English honors, right? Utilizing all research to come up with new or perhaps better understanding of perceived mental disorder. So in other words, just say what's on your mind. But, when it's on paper, you need to make sure it's nicely laid out, right? The symptoms of Michael Myers have to be portrayed in a scary way to sell movie tickets. The etiology of his stupor is from catatonia. And here I'm getting more, right? You wouldn't know unless you have a course in abnormal psychology or psychology, which this is my second class, so you're not going to know this easily. Quote, unquote, physical symptoms from a psychological disorder, right? So here, the professor is this is where he splits here. He's basically saying that he doesn't want you to quote exactly, like 1, 2, 3 words. And you need to insert a opening and closing citation, right? So it kind of sounds confusing, but when you cross that bridge, you'll know what to do, right? And it says catatonia is a quote unquote, right? I choose to quote unquote that part of the book, but not reiterating verbatim what the book says. Essentially, it says a physical symptom from a psychological disorder. I decided to quote unquote that without repeating the book exactly, which might explain why he kills the way he does, which is excessive and messy. Okay? Breaking down and understanding the claimed disorders of Michael Myers explains what makes him one of the favorites to watch on Halloween. Still, comma, I forgot my comma, um, yet, right, that's transitional, or a necklace class, right? You need to let people know when a thought starts, when it stops, right? It's kind of like traffic. Red light, green light, yellow light, pause, comma. My favorites to watch on Halloween still, yet that might ruin the suspense of not knowing, right? So you need to know if you need to insert a comma before transitional, which I believe you do, and I forgot. The overlapped disorders are sociopathy, psychopathy, and schizophrenia, all contributing to a stupor. And then I had a open citation and a closed citation, and just wanted to present the new feature on Google that there's a tool that helps you do that. Okay. It helps you do that, and it keeps a record so you don't lose your place, you know? The source of these kinds of horror flicks are usually not required or even credible in depictions of characters. The historical content, I am touch basing on what the professor is prompting, and they love that because it shows you're paying attention and not trying to sound clever or a smart ass, right? There's a difference between a smart ass and somebody who's actually smart and in school, right? The historical context of Halloween started in 1978 and was produced by Rob Zombie, quote unquote, right? Michael Myers disorder, closing citation. I got it off fandom. You guys hear a lot about fandom, right? Scary movies playing on the fears of years, even from fictitious character wearing a mask of William Shatner. See? So now I am right unveiling psychology and helping your minds understand more about what's going on. Wearing a mask of William Shatner has been an intricate part of American culture trending to our country, right? And what I mean by that, and I should expand on that, is that, you know, the United States always portrayed the villain as a disfigured, right, the ugly one. And William Shatner is actually the mask of Halloween. And, you know, I did a little critical thinking when I said, who is more dangerous? Michael Myers, the fictitious character William Shatner. And that's an easy one for me. William Shatner. He's a good-looking guy, you know, Star Trek, and he had that way, you know, he had pretty much all the girls liking him. You know, that's, to me, that's dangerous. Michael Myers was right? He was the one that nobody liked, essentially. So I think William Shatner is a lot more dangerous. Audiences rather enjoy the fear of good scary movies than examining the facts. And I'm gonna reveal some facts that's gonna blow you guys' minds, right? Um, the social cultural desire to watch horror flicks, that of Halloween and Michael Myers, made the makers fact, quote unquote, 80.3 million from the cost of 15 million dollars. To see, I forgot to put $1 million. I put $15. So I'm going to go and edit that. So a lot of English honors, you got to keep your eyes on that 3-word rule. Yeah, you can't let your paper bleed out. So it's been edited. Click. They were saying it was a budget movie. Well, $15 million, right? Not just from fanatics here in America, but worldwide, right? Closing citation, because he wants it that way. The course, and if you've never done AP before, this all might be new for your mind to wrap around and be accustomed to, which essentially what college is prepping you to complete your studies at the university. Okay. And that's hard because, your brain is hardwired. You're so used to thinking something. And now the colleges come around and they're like, no, you're going to take your thinking and wrap it around ours. It's not going to go the other way around. And that's hard. The course prognosis to the more severe disorder of schizophrenia. And here I'm trying to put in my words so I don't sound like a parrot. To clarify things and hopefully shed light on more understanding of Halloween and psychology for me and you and everybody. I said the course prognosis, the more severe mental disorders of schizophrenia, included, this is one of the key terms and something original example. If you were to give an example, that babies are not biologically born with schizophrenia. Okay. And if I was to write it out, I had more time, I would have to, right, touch base a little bit where I saw that. Therefore, quote unquote, this is highly treatable with psychotherapy to external stressors in conjunction with prescribed medication by a psychiatrist, unquote. Closing citation. And yes, you need to have a opening and closing citation for every paragraph. And he requires like at least, 125. Although the comprehension and diagnosis of schizophrenia is that of more major symptoms or stressors from life, living a quality of life is possible, only limited to activity. This disorder is diagnosed, and I miss a comma, based on individual disorganized thought processes along with catatonia. So I left a comma out after diagnosis. And when you're English honors, you literally see stuff like that. Closing citation. And then I went on to saying, because this is what he prompted us to write, I'm expanding on it. The paralimbic, right, the prefrontal cortex, and the amygdala area of the brain, usually in juveniles, inability to feel guilty for their crimes, and other disruptions or damages to the reduction of gray matter, contributes to my point, definition of psychopathy, right? Which specifically, when you hear Psycho, right? The movie Psycho. Well, the reality is you're talking about the ventral striatum, the anterior posterior cingulate, and the parahippocampal gyrus in the brain. Okay? Closing citation. HSS public access, okay? And I went on to say, perhaps those who hurt others are just crying out for help. These findings in this article gives insight to the lack of emotions in Michael Myers. And I noticed another mistake. That's why you want to give yourself some cushion time to see how I'm fixing it now. It's a little too late. Is infamous for Halloween. Now they have the Halloween series Kill. My original example. His affinity to crushing heads. You guys know Michael Myers has a thing, right, for stepping on people. Closing citation. And then I went on to say, because the book and the author and me continued on, inadequate food and or water consumption related to catatonia can complex mental disorders and lead to a physical death for individuals that are going through the catatonic episode. And what I need to expand on, if I was given more time, that to portray Michael Myers as somebody who dies and all of a sudden comes back is not reality. Plus, they claim that Michael Myers, the top of the list, he had catatonia. And if he indeed had catatonia, instead of being scared of him, we should feel sorry for him, because there is days you have to question, where does he get his water? Where does he get his food? And apparently he's cannibalism. Why isn't he dead? Right? It's all fictitious. And wants you to view Michael Myers in a certain way. And there's really no basis of it. And here I included the secondary citation, which is Orboraya C. Okay. Grossly disorganized or abnormal psychomotor behavior in the Essentials of Understanding of Normal Psychology, our book. Right on with what the professor wants. So hopefully I won't get like 1,500, but I'll get most of it right. I'm getting sleepy again. And I went on to saying this correct description of stupor would lead to a different understanding and perhaps sympathy of persons suffering from stupor than being scared. Disruption of speech or mutism can accompany stupor with an awareness of surrounding, but diminished ability to be responsive, characteristic of Michael Myers. So I see, instead of somebody scary, I see as somebody that he's suffering. You should feel sorry for him. And some part of the movies, you do see that. His sister or whatever tried to trick him to take off the mask. And all of a sudden, all his vulnerability, right, is exposed. And he drops his knife, and then the sister picks it up and stabs him, right? That's wrong. To make a movie, and portray that. Then I wanted to say treatments of catatonia are many primarily or effective drugs of benzodiazepine, quote, unquote, and glutamate antagonists, antipsychotic targeted, um, electroconvulsive supportive. Forgot a T in targeted. I'm going to go back in. So you guys kind of get a feel of what it takes to be honored, right? Got a T. Closing. No, that's just the beginning. Went on to saying the small population with this disorder has many treatment available. Catatonia has promising results in recovery, which is something that's never brought up in Halloween, right? They portray him as somebody who's never going to recover. He's getting worse. He's evil, right? Lock this boy up in an asylum, right? Behind several gates. That's not true. Catatonia is, it says, has promising results and recovering in patients, quote unquote, of a small percentage of 10. So not only is the recovery great, but very few mentally ill people actually has catatonia. You're probably not scared anymore, right? For Halloween. And then that's the closing. And I went on to saying catatonic stupor associated with schizophrenia is, comma. See, once you know how to do things correct, you can't stand it when things are incorrect. So I forgot a comma right here. Go in and correct it. So I went and correct it. Now I want to click the blue thing right there. Is, quote unquote, a medical condition that can be life-threatening, not only for mental condition, for medical. So I think Michael Myers, right? Him standing there with his knife. First and foremost, he's not the only one that suffers catatonia. And catatonia is not subjective to just mental disorders. It's other medical disorders too. And I went on to saying, and should not be mistaken as demonic possession. And I should expand on it, right? Because to be honors, you need to cover everything. And what I mean by that is there are a lot of movies about demonic possessions, right? And all of a sudden they're like this and they're bent, right? They're bent backwards. And the book saying that's could not be demonic possession. It could be catatonia, which is epilepsy. So it shouldn't be mistaken as demonic possession or played out in Halloween by Michael Myers. I should reiterate, a fictitious character. Right? There is no Michael Myers. It's a William Shatner mask, right? And I went on to, that's the closing. And then I went on to saying, focusing on treatment of mental disorder is vital, not mistreatment. But you see how movies can lead to mistreatment, right? And how is that going to help anybody who does suffer from a mental disorder, even if there was Michael Myers, right? It's not. It's vital, not the mistreatment of someone suffering with schizophrenia. Okay. This article questions, comma, you see, either people use excessive comma or they don't use enough commas. You have to put a comma before quotations. So comma and then quote. This is basic grammar. This article questions, comma, quote unquote, the treatment of sociopaths and psychopaths in behavioral changes. Opening or closing citation. And then it says relapse. I think that's opening. And that's why all of this is important because it's like directing traffic, right? Your thoughts. Just imagine we had a street. It would be like Vietnam, like cars all over the place. Relapse and returning to old patterns and behavior is expected in this, okay, demographic. Typo, and the word fell out, so I'm going to insert it back in. So we're talking about people who are both social path and psychopath. That they usually revert, right? Relapse, returning old patterns, behavior is to be expected. The list of medication of the treatments of schizophrenia are of that, comma, quote, unquote, first and second generation antipsychotic drug utilized in injectables that are long-acting with other psychomotor skills, vocational, and continuous self-care. And I'm pretty sure I hit it right on to what he prompted. So in general, he wants you to paraphrase in your own words, right? Which I did. I put quote unquote, this is what they said, but I put it in my own words. So he's really asking to split hairs and then of course have the reference paper. That's the Mayo Clinic opening. Initiation and keeping up with appointments, quote unquote, and their doctors and long-term care. Okay. And I went on to saying catatonic stupor associated with schizophrenia is, comma, see, when I started, the reason why I'm doing this, when I started English, 61, I used too much comma. So now it's like I went extreme and went the other way. So anytime you're going to quote something, you need a comma. It is, quote, unquote, a medical condition that can be life-threatening, not only for mental conditions, but medical. Okay? And should not be mistaken. I already read that. So now you know why you have to write this, because you lose your place of thought. And then I said, we should be focused on treating mental disorder. It is vital, right? Read that, of someone suffering from schizophrenia. In conclusion, and this is the nitty gritty, I had to, right? To make 100 per paragraph, I had to add crunch, maybe two short ones together. In other words, do what's prompted. That's how you get your points. And the best thing is that you understand more of psychology and how your mind works in relationship with others. So in conclusion, I could have set a paragraph apart from that as far as grammatical, but the fact that the previous paragraph didn't have the 100, right, of whatever words requirement, I crunched it together. So I continue on and saying, in conclusion, Michael Myers is a fictitious character made of William Shatner mask. Okay? The claims of his disorders are not fact-based, nor should we reference Halloween over the DSM. And I should go on to expanding because it makes it interesting. That's the creative writing and more critical, that they said Michael Myers was like the DSM. Yeah, that's not very nice, right? With better understanding from this paper, and that's not a complete sentence, I can put will yield okay, will yield, okay, or does not yield understanding. Okay. So don't think if you use a lot of words, you sound smarter. You're not. It's about using the most appropriate words. All right. Michael Myers, if he is real, is someone with a severe mental disorder. He was more suffering. He was more in suffering than an individual that everyone should be scared of. That sounds corny. So we're going to go in and change it. He was um, in suffering more. Okay. He was in suffering. Okay. An individual that everyone should not be scared of. Okay. And the stereotype of people with mental disorder have taken away, all right, rightful sympathy. I'm going to put medical sympathy. So that's fill in the blank. Okay. And then reference. Just little things I did with the reference. Like, as you know, everything they say flush it. So everything is to the left. And then the second sentence is the indentation. So I have one off. And that was another glitch in the system. You got to manually go in and fix, right? Clean up your paper. And that's it. So essentially, Michael Myers, there is no Michael Myers. And, they're using this fictitious character to try to portray the mentally ill. And as you can see, why it's causing a lot of problems, right? So with that say, in an hour and 28 minutes, I'm going to cut it early. Just take a break from, everybody being sick here, diarrhea. But I'm just going to continue to pray and have faith. I will delete my previous video in the morning because, like I said before, the Creative Academy, the 3 components of a video is lighting, right? I have the lighting, sound, I have the JBL, and camera. Web. It's not noise and distractions in the background, and it's not about other people walking back and forth. And sometimes they just, they see me during a live stream, and it's like total lack of consideration for me or anybody. But like I said, it doesn't stop there. Okay. I'm starting to be more resolved and put an end to all that. We don't need that. We don't need it for another 50 years. And as far as I'm concerned in God, most of this stuff never should have happened, right? So with that said, in an hour and 29 minutes, that's what my Halloween paper is about. Please let me know what you think about it. And, just to let you know, I believe October the 15th, there's a new Halloween coming out. So you might want to see that. And I want to say really quick, how does my paper correlate. For example, I'm subscribed to the Mind Seed TV show, which basically they say is a bogus, right, site. So how does it lead from people's total lack of regard to what the DSM might describe somebody mental disorder versus social media depiction and some of the problems that essentially can arise from that. People don't really have much to back up anything they say. So I was going to say this Mindseed TV, whatever, it's got really cool effects as far as, and just the general theme, like thoughts, they're trying to combat evil spirits or protect other people and so forth. Yeah, it sounds interesting, but the title of the movie is called Searching for Purgatory. And I asked myself, who who would want to search for that? Because on a final point, they say hell is how you meet some people, they won't even give you time of day. In hell is pretty much there's essentially my mom's complaint because it's 2:03 in the morning. It's just I was going to say, we've got to say it before I lose my train of thought. In hell, you are completely separated from God and everything he holds dear to him. And I could tell you, if you are in any way Christian, as most claim, the thought of being separated from God is such a bad thing. It's such a bad thing. That's why the Bible advises to not be equally yoked. And I have chosen to disconnect myself. Right? It was a bunch of nonsense. And that was Facebook. That was NSM. That was predatorial school. Right? It was a lot of boys, right, who thought I had a thing for them, even though they have a wife, like whatever. Let it go, folks. Let it go. Do yourself a favor. Let it go. The sooner, the better. So with that said, I'm going to go to sleep because I am going to sleep. And I'll have a break. And I'll continue on with my psychology. But I know even if I, don't even hit 1,500, my score is already a B. So I'm doing good. So with that said, I wish everyone have a good night and sweet dreams. Remember to turn on your notifications to get your favorite YouTube. And don't forget to take advantage of subscriptions on YouTube and share my channel. And that is a new way of saying goodbye to people on YouTube, right? Instead of everything verbatim. So yes, I ask everybody to join in and help me pray for the recovery of the series. and her baby. I know they say that, felines will eventually overcome, diarrhea, but it's, I can tell you, it's not comfortable in the meantime. It smells, it's probably irritating her system, you know, and, I try to wipe her off, and so she's traumatized for that. So I really is going to be ready to join in prayers. Stay positive. Stay positive. Right? And yes, take advantage of being here on YouTube. With that said, I am going to go now. I'm going to enjoy. I'm definitely in sleep debt, so I'm going to catch up and make myself maybe some nice hot Asian noodle soup with okra. And what I do is I steam the okra with the noodle, so it gives the Asian noodle. I have like spicy ones. They're very thick, like kind of like a udon, thick. Like instead of like a thin ramen, the okra, right, brings out this thickness and deliciousness, right? Kind of like me, which this me's got to go to the gym. So with that said, I want to thank you too for being here. Take nothing for granted. God is good. God is good. And it is a good thing that YouTube still grants me the permission to be here. Even, through my phases of Facebook, right? And I'm kind of glad it happened because before I knew YouTube was interesting, but I really didn't, right? I wasn't put in a position where I was like, how do I use more of this YouTube app, right? For to make life better. And now I'm learning. And if YouTube get this message, I hope they send out an invitation for me to redo the Creator Academy. Because that I think is a wealth of knowledge, and I think it's something everybody should know, right? And I'm still jealous of videos, right, where the lighting is just so beautiful, and the sound quality, the camera is great, and they have like millions of subscribers, and I have one. But you know what? All honesty, I like that. I like that. I like being unknown. Believe it or not. Believe it or not. Looks can fool you. I have a sister, and people always think I'm the loud party one, because I have tattoos and stuff, and she's like really conservative and wears like office outfit stuff. But she's actually the wild one, and goes to parties. I don't even go out. I live like a grandma, and for the most part, my life is complete. With besitos here, and all I ask is that God helps her regain her health and happiness. That's my 2 homework assignment for them and her babies. I'm content. If you keep on, in general, in psychology, we want to make it applicable. If you keep on saying, I'm not going to be happy unless, right, bigger cars, bigger house, bigger money, you're never going to be happy. I've learned, just be happy. Even with the little things, because those little things, you know what? They're seeds of miracles from a very big, big God. All right? Let's just leave it at that. That's a beautiful thought. which I promise to present on my channel. Just I apologize. I know people interrupt my live stream, but if I go deep off the deep ends on it, you know why. But I really don't like to be like that on live stream. Because I'm in a bad mood, and it kind of sets other people off in a bad mood. And I told myself I wouldn't do that, right? So with that said, I wish everyone have a good night. Tomorrow's Monday. I call Mondays make it happen. Whatever you want to do in life, I believe you can make it happen, right? Don't listen to other people, right? Who only discourage you. And I will be back here to break down exactly how you can make things happen in your life. All right.